Welcome to the Randall Platoon podcast. I'm James White along with Sojourn Shelton, Warren Herron, bringing you Badger football news, updates, and everything every single week. Before we get into Badger football, I just want to check in with the guys, see if they checked out any college football this past week. We saw USC versus Utah. That was a pretty crazy game. So along the lines of that game, there's been a lot of talk about Caleb Williams, his performance versus ranked teams versus unranked teams. He almost looks like a completely different player. So I want to get y'all opinions whether that kind of changes your opinions on him. I mean, obviously he's still gonna be the number one overall pick. His talent is
for sure.
He second to none. But do you guys think that may raise some question marks between some organizations and whatnot as far as drafting? I don't think so, but y'all can tell me what y'all think.
Yeah, I mean, like the NFL, when you bring up that part of it, guys, they're just trying to find a way to, what I'm saying, kind of like break you down and tear you down a little bit. But man, that kid is a generational talent. Like, just he's able to make all the throws. He seems poised. Like, he never really looks like he's rattled, even in the big games that I have seen him lose. It's just one of those things. Like, for him, honestly, if I was him, I would probably, and people are gonna maybe not agree with me, but bro, I would shut it down. I mean, it's one of those things where like you're probably not gonna win the Heisman back to back this year.
Right.
You got bigger things to worry about, bro. You know what I'm saying? Staying healthy and making sure you secure that first round draft, that first pick of the draft, which is it come with a lot of pressure, but that's something big that only a selective amount of players can dream of and actually achieve. So I think he's well on to being that, and I mean, like I said, he's a generational talent.
Yeah.
When you say shut it down, you mean just like stop playing?
I mean, and you look at I think when you get to a certain level of being a star of a player, like you look at some of the guys that have previously, what I'm saying, like honestly gotten hurt in situations where they shouldn't have been playing. Like if you're Caleb Williams, do you play in a bowl game? Like,
definitely not.
Honestly, no, right? So I mean, you probably play these next 3-4 games that you have left, but I mean, like you said, Heisman is honestly probably out of the window, and then like playing into the college football players and national championship, that's probably out the window as well. So anytime I think of a high future draft pick, I think of the linebacker from he ended up getting drafted to the Cowboys, but he was playing for Notre Dame, and he had that bad injury in the bowl game. It's just like you just don't want to. You just don't want to put yourself in that that predicament.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, Emmanuel Acho, I think, was like the first person who I saw to kind of bring that up after the loss last week, and he said, I know he'll probably get some flack, and I'll probably get some flack for saying this, but he's like, Caleb Williams should shut it down, which is a very reasonable option. I mean, what are these next 3 or 4 games really going to do for him? That's not changing the trajectory of his draft status or making him that much of a better player. Maybe people will question his competitiveness and selfishness and all that stuff. So I guess my question to you, Warren, do you think there would be an issue? I mean, I think obviously fans will be pissed off, Twitter will be kind of outraged and all that. Do you think there's a problem if he shuts it down the next month or so?
I mean, truth be told, I think about it as like, as Sojourn was talking about, teams trying to do something to knock you down. They may poke at your leadership, skill or your leadership ability, or, are you really there for the team, yada, yada, yada. But, love the fans, but, when it comes to stuff like that, man, they don't determine your future at all. So, like, you got to do what's best for you. And, if I was him, I would shut it down. I mean, I would play the rest of the regular season when it gets to college football playoff, things like that. I mean, I would hate to say no juice because I do like watching him play from a player standpoint. But for him and to solidify his future, you never want to see a guy go down and injure himself and keep him back from something that he could have, really achieved. So, I mean, if I was him, I would shut it down. Like I said, it'd be terrible, to see teams and things like that break him down for that. But I mean, he's got to secure his future.
Yeah,
for me, bigger things.
Yeah, for me, I don't see a problem with it whatsoever. But he's just got to be ready to face, the backlash, the question marks. You're gonna have to answer those questions a little bit more, a little bit longer, all that good stuff. Like, is people gonna be questioning your leadership, questioning your competitiveness? Obviously, they're gonna be asking you all throughout the draft process why you did this, why you did that. I mean, there's already rumors of him talking about, he wants ownership in a team, like, and all that stuff, which I feel like they kind of broke that news to kind of, how he's kind of saying he won't play for certain teams. I feel like that's a reason why they kind of like put that out there. Like maybe he wants to rub some people the wrong way so he can kind of make. I mean, I think he wants to be the number 1 overall pick, but maybe he wants to fall back a little bit, be in a better situation, because obviously you get drafted, by Chicago Bears versus whoever, the Atlanta Falcons or something. It's probably a better situation being in Atlanta versus Chicago. So maybe that's where it kind of all goes from. But last week. Flipping to the Badgers. Last weekend we had a big win against Illinois. Was kind of scary a little bit. So I kind of want to get you guys' initial thoughts on the win versus Illinois, another Big Ten West opponent.
Yeah, it's 100% a huge dub, right? Like we needed it, especially getting to the tail end of the season where you're just trying to qualify to play in a bowl game. You don't want to start taking too many L's because then it get real shaky being in those positions where it's like. We at game 11, 12, and we got to win both of them to, be in a bowl game. But the first half was shaky for sure. But I'm just happy for those guys and just to be able to see the resilience and, them to play together and the type of second half and fourth quarter that they put together, right? Like, I want to say we outscored them in the fourth quarter with 18 to 0, which
unanswered, 18 unanswered.
18 unanswered, which is insane, right? Especially just how our offense looked, in the beginning of the game and, spotty in certain areas on the defense side of the ball. But, I think it's just a huge win, especially against, Coach B and that staff, a lot of, former Wisconsin guys. I'm just happy that as a program we was able to, pull that dub out.
About you, Warren, what's your initial thoughts on the dub?
No, I agree with that. I mean, I don't want to dwell on it too much. Obviously, we know we've talked about it all year, with us starting slow. And I mean, if that's what it's going to be for us, then we got to make sure we find a way to finish that thing on the back end. And that's what we were able to do this, on Saturday. I mean, they beat us last year, so be able to come back and get that win, regardless of how tight it was or whatever, to see the guys pull together in the fourth quarter and put up 18 unanswered points. The defense put out a goose egg when, they were up, 21-7 at one point. To be able to fight and secure that victory was huge for us, especially going into another big week. So I know the guys are capable, and I was really impressed with Braden Locke, bro, the freshman quarterback.
Yeah,
he played a really good game. 2 touchdowns, 250-plus yards. What is it, 250, right?
Yeah,
something like that, 240. I mean, he had one mistake. He fumbled the ball, obviously getting swiped from behind. But, I mean, other than that, he played really poised. I mean, I really, really enjoyed watching him play. So I'm looking forward to watching him, as we move forward.
Yeah, man, I was excited for the guys, man. Like you guys kind of talked about the first half. It's looking more of the same. We've struggled, especially offensively in the first half. We've really struggled to get things going. We've had a few good drives, start off games last week. Had a good drive, went for it on fourth down, didn't get it. But I'm just glad the loss last week, I mean, it looked like it was going to be, didn't carry over into this week because we see it all the time. You play a rivalry game or play a good opponent, you lose in, tough fashion. You come out the next week, you start slow, and you lose again. And you got 2 losses probably based off, one team. So I'm glad they were able to rally the troops. You could see kind of the emotion from Fickle, from the entire team after that win. I said, being down 14 points twice, like, I know for me when I played in Wisconsin, I don't know about you for you guys, if we went down 14 points or ain't there 10 points, sometimes that seemed insurmountable just based off the way we played offense when we were there. We had to play and kind of back and forth, 7-point, 10-point game possibly, or we had to be up 14-0, that type of thing, and that was our kind of wheelhouse. So to see them go out there and win that game, being down 14 twice, playing good in situational football, I thought that was huge for me. Now let's dive into the X's and O's. So like Warren kind of mentioned, Braden Locke, first career start, 21 for 41, 240 yards, 2 TDs, led the team in a 2-minute drive before the half, led them in a game-winning drive end of the game. So you got to give him a lot of credit, man. Your first start, last week got thrown into the fire against Iowa, had a couple fumbles, an interception. That's a tough situation to be in, going up against one of the better defenses, in the Big Ten. One of the better defenses in the country over the last several years. Iowa's always a tough football team. So you kind of wonder how he would walk into this game. Illinois was a defense that's been, kind of hit or miss, all throughout, this season. But they came to play versus us, especially those first 3 quarters. Warren mentioned that he had the fumble, got strip sacked. He got strip sacked a couple times last week. So, yeah, he definitely needs to improve on that. But overall, man, he was It looked impressive. This is the best the passing game has looked on a consistent basis. Maybe aside from those first 2 quarters, they had a couple drops, couple miscommunications. But man, he really got it going. I think this is going to be huge, especially coming into this week, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's going to be tough. It's going to be – you saw a lot of man-to-man coverage versus Illinois. They were perfectly comfortable playing that against our receivers based off, what we've seen on tape from us. Had some drops. Guys couldn't create separation, but as the game went on, it got better. And I think everybody got some confidence from that. So I kind of want to see how you guys were impressed with his performance in his first start.
Yeah, I was extremely impressed, and then you talk about like his pass attempts to what was completed, and like you have to add in that a lot of those balls that were dropped were put in the right spot, for our guys to catch. And I think moving into the game that we have coming up, I just think he's gonna have to continue to just be poised and understand that you're gonna go through times in a game where you're gonna have some drops. You got to just keep going to those guys, right? Keep having that faith in them. And he hasn't been the quarterback for the whole season, so he has to kind of move at a faster rate as far as like trusting the receivers in certain situations, big third downs. But I think overall, if we just continue to play how we did last week, but start a little bit faster and guys, catch the ball, I mean, we'll have a chance, throwing for 240 yards, only in your second game as a starter. And then also just being able to have the, moments where you could have had more if guys catch the ball, which you always got to, lean on that, they will catch it. It's a pretty impressive, start as far as like the last week and moving to this week.
Yeah, and like I said, 9 different players had receptions, so he spread the ball around. Like I said, which is pretty crazy. You don't really see that for Wisconsin. Probably be about 3-4 guys that usually catch the ball. So 9 different guys caught the ball. Will Paulin, had his best game, probably best career day for himself.
Man.
7 receptions, 95 yards. What'd you see from him, Warren?
Will Paulin, he's a baller. And we've seen him, like I said, we've talked about it. We have the guys to make plays, and he's definitely one of the guys that we've seen make plays, all year, get us out of jams. And, he sure hands, don't drop the ball much. So, it was really good to see him utilize his explosiveness and getting the ball in his hands. Like I said, he helped us out in a lot of, third down situations. That one, what was it, second and long or third and long? That low ball catch that he had, things like that. He's the kid's special. He's a really good player, and I'm glad that Braden has someone like him to be able to look to get the ball to, especially in those tight situations. Helps build Braden's confidence.
That touchdown pass, that touchdown catch,
aggressive. I love that concentration.
It was one of those things where he threw it, and I'm like, no, then he went and caught it. So
but that's a veteran. That's a veteran receiver.
Yeah, man. And like I said, that play was huge. I think it gives him a lot of confidence going forward too, man. And for the quarterback to see that, to trust in you, like I said, it was kind of a questionable throw. The DB was there. He didn't high point the ball. Our receiver did, and that's what you want to see from your receivers. Braylon Allen had a huge game, 29 carries, 145 yards, a TD. Obviously, we know we kind of talked about it last week. Like, it's good to see the passing game going, but the bread and butter of this offense, we kind of talked about it. That's the most carry he's had his entire career, which was kind of surprising to me. I didn't know that. Really? 29 carries, the most carry he's ever gotten, which I said he's probably going to see a lot more of that throughout the year. He's our best back. He's our best player on offense. You got to feed him, got to lean into him, especially with a young quarterback. So I thought he had a heck of a day. He had a few runs. I know he ran through a safety number 0 at like the line of scrimmage, bent him up.
Hey, 2 weeks in a row.
Kept it pushing. So I think he's kind of starting to get into a groove. I'm sure he's starting to kind of accept that onus, which I'm sure he already had it where like he's the guy. Like this offense kind of runs through me a little bit. And like I said, when you have runs like that, when you running through dudes and you get 20 yards, like, all right, I feel like that gets like everybody good. The receivers going, like they probably want to block a little bit harder or make a play, and it makes your quarterback a lot more comfortable too. So, kind of wanted to get you guys' opinion on how important is Braylon to this offense, especially coming into this week. Like it is, we're gonna need some more of that.
He is the heart and soul of our offense, and there's no shade around it. It is what it is, and I think the running game will be what we need to, start fast and then open up to the passing game, right? Just being able to get him to pick up 5, 6, 5 yards, 4 yards here and there, and just keep, chopping at the wood and just taking it down by down. But like you said, you know that he has already known that he is the guy, but we're definitely going to have to lean on him for the rest of the season moving forward to accomplish the goals that we want to, as far as being able to, play, in December or wherever it takes us.
Yeah, man. Each of Wisconsin's last 20 wins, too, he's run for at least 80 yards in all of them, too. So, you definitely got to get him going. Definitely got to make sure we get a heavy dosage to him going forward. And defensively,
I want to ask you, James, like from a running back's perspective, right? Like, when you know of a stat like that of him running, when the running back touches the ball and they run for over 80 yards or whatever, like most of the time we win. How from a scheme standpoint do you, I guess, scheme it so that kind of like so that he can get those touches?
Yeah.
I feel like for me, I would be in the frame of like, bro, I gotta get him 80 yards to 100 yards. I don't know how I gotta scheme it or block it up, but I gotta be able to put him in situations where he's gonna be able to thrive.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to like force feed him in a sense where you just like, okay, I'm gonna give him 5 straight carries to like get him to that 80 yards, that type of thing. But you gotta scheme it right based on the defense we're playing against. I said, obviously, you want to get him in space as much as possible, and I think that helps with the new offense. But yeah, you just want to get them involved. I know when I was playing with the Patriots, people used to always bring it up to me. I had a stat for like 1 year. Whenever I touched the ball like 12 times, we was like 10-0 or like some junk like that.
Get him the ball.
Yeah, people always bring it up, but I said the coaches don't necessarily care about that all the time. But when it comes to Braylon, like in this Wisconsin offense, I feel like they have an understanding of that. Maybe they don't know that exact stat, but I'm sure they know if you get Braylon over 100 yards or over 80 yards, we're going to be in a good position to win the football game. We're going to control the clock. We're going to control the momentum of the game, keep good offenses off the field and all that stuff. So it's something that I think all coaches are kind of aware of, but you gotta get them in good run looks and all that stuff. It can't just be like, okay, Braylon gets 80 yards, we're going to win, and he gets 30 carries for 80 yards. That's not, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's not the greatest look. So definitely got to be smart about that. But when it comes to defensively, we got to get this cleaned up. Once again, we gave up over 200 yards rushing. Once again, we gave up over 200 yards to Iowa, kind of all year long. I mean, the Rutgers game was really good. I thought we were going to continue that type of trend. We knew Rutgers was going to run the football. I mean, we should have known Iowa was going to run the football, but we didn't stop it. Illinois is another team that loves to run the football. They haven't ran it very well all year long, but they ran it well against us. So going to have to clean that up, man, because Ohio State, they're not as good at running the football as they have been in previous years, but we know. Like, they're a team. You give them a crease. They got backs. They got probably 4-5 backs. You probably never seen before. You give them a crease. These dudes gonna make some explosive plays, but like, what have you guys seen, or what do you think, Warren, we could correct, defensively to kind of slow down teams' running games, because it's gonna become important, especially come November.
Yeah, I think in the games that we've seen so far, like it's definitely got to come up with the guys up front. In the games where we've been hit really heavy against the run and they've gashed us, is being gap sound and resetting the line of scrimmage. I think, in the first half last week, hate to say it, but I really feel like we got out physical. It's a kind of like a go getter mentality. It's like I gotta do it, like I want to do it. Guys up front just got to get going. Like, we got to be able to allow our linebackers to move free. If you take on two, you take on two. But it's getting hands on guys, resetting the line of scrimmage, and just being gap sound. We can't allow big gashes, especially within between the tackles, because that's where those up front guys play, in between the tackles, and it's not, a lot of those runs aren't getting hit on the edges. It's right up the middle. So it's figuring out how to be gap sound.
Yeah, 100%. And like, Illinois' quarterback ran for 100 yards too, so that's kind of been an issue all year long too, as far as containing the QB. Ohio State's quarterback, which we'll get into a second, he's not a scrambler, but I say if you're getting up 100 yards to a quarterback, that means, I'm sure the coach probably let them know if ain't nobody open, look the scramble. They can't contain a quarterback, so you're getting a free 8 to 10 yards every time he runs the ball. That could definitely pose a problem. So we definitely got to get better at the QB contain. But now let's get into the scout report. So it's Ohio State week. We all know that's a big week. It's a tremendous opportunity for the players in the locker room. The program got the number 3 team in the country. Coming into Camp Randall. Night game. The stage is set. You know what I mean? So, forget what you've done, all year long. Good or bad. When you come into this football game, you got to kind of block out all that noise and stay poised and into the task at hand. And this is one of those weeks we kind of talked about it, how we started slow every single week. This is a week. We cannot.
This ain't the week.
We
this
cannot
ain't the week.
start slow. We can't go down
at all.
14 points twice and all that stuff, because they're the type of team that, they smell blood in the water. You give them a 14-point lead, that's when they, kind of get things rolling. They're a team. This is a really good football team, but I said, you guys, we all know, like, they've had much better football teams than this. I will say, defensively, they look a lot better than they did last year. They've cleaned up a lot of things. They're playing a little bit less aggressive. They're kind of keeping everything in front, that type of thing. So it's going to be a challenge for us. They beat Penn State last week, 20-12. They completely shut down Penn State's offense. I don't know if you guys really saw that game, but Penn State's offense could do much of anything. One for 16 on third down. The one third down conversion was their last drive where they scored a little gimme touchdown to kind of make the score look closer than what it is. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think this is a very winnable football game. You just got to play it the right way.
Sure.
You got to play energized, enthusiastic, all that stuff. You got to play into the crowd. Like I said, you make a play, celebrate that junk.
Celebrate.
All that stuff. Celebrate as a team. Just make them kind of let you know you got to deal with everybody. Like I said, I think it's winnable.
Yeah, we ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, we got to protect the football too offensively. We've had a turnover like every single game except for one game, so you can't give this type of team any freebies, short fields, and all that stuff. So I kind of wanted to know what you guys' thoughts coming into this week versus Ohio State.
Yeah, bro, it's no secret behind it. It's a huge game, right? And like you said, it's so important that you don't want to start slow, because this is a team that if you start slow, they will beat you by 40. And it's it's just is what it is. Like, they're not gonna call the dogs off. They're not gonna they're trying to go out there and embarrass you. Especially just the history that we've had with this team. Like, I don't want to say it's a rivalry game, but it's a game where, like, a lot of us, we've played in very meaningful big games against Ohio State. And it's going to be a tough game. Like, it's going to be a tough game, obviously, from us, right? Like, you got to bring your A game. You got to play sound on all three phases of the game. But for them, it's just one of those things, like they take it very personal and serious too when they see Wisconsin on that schedule. So, I'm just looking forward to it, right? Like, there's a bunch of little key matchups in the game that's gonna be a big factor. Obviously, like, there's the elephant in the room, Marvin Harrison Jr., best receiver in college football. It seems as of late he's starting to charge up. He's starting to get those attempts. He's starting to have the 15-yard games, the touchdowns. Like, he's looking like the number 2 pick of the NFL draft.
For sure.
I think it's going to be a real big test for our secondary. I seen that, Ricardo has been coming out in the preseason. I mean, not the preseason, the midseason All-American, talk. So for him, right, this is a big game and a chance for you to, kind of measure up and see where you are against somebody that that everybody knows is elite, but that is going to be a star at the next level.
And you kind of talked about that, last week. Penn State has a pretty highly touted cornerback, Kalen King. He tried to shadow Marvin Harrison a lot of games. He had a rough day out there last week. He had a couple PIs getting beat. They trying to double team him. He's still holding them. So, like I said, Marvin is a guy. He knows he's going to get that attention. Almost every single snap. Can't double him every single play, but when you got him doubled, I say use your leverage when you match up. Don't get all handsy. Don't make it bigger than what it is. Like I said, he's a good football player, but you got to think. Ricardo, you're a good football player too. Alexander Smith, I'm a good football player too. So, stick to your, the coaching points that you get, and just don't go out there and make the moment too big. I think that's another big thing for me, for a lot of these players. Don't make the moment too big than what it is. It's still another football game at the end of the day. That's how you got to treat it when you're on the football field. They're number 3 in the country, all that stuff. But I said you got to just treat it as another game on the schedule and play your game and stay in tune with it. So what you kind of looking forward to in this matchup, Warren versus Ohio State?
Really looking forward to how we play against Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, we know he's the best receiver in college football right now, so I'm really excited about that. Really excited to see what Ricardo Hallman does against him, and Alex Smith as well, and how our back end works. But I'm really excited to see how the guys up front answer this challenge, because that's how we're gonna help them. I personally, I'm interested to see how y'all I'm interested to see how y'all think we're gonna attack it, but I don't think we should be dropping 8 this game. This ain't the one to do it. No. Don't think the quarterback can run a lot, but when you have weapons like they do, you still don't want to give them time, right? So I think you have to put pressure on them, and so guys have to just bring that extra effort. So your first move don't work, get to the second one now. You know, I'm pushing the pocket. How am I gonna get to the cue? Like, you have to give something extra this week. Not saying that every week ain't important, but this is just one of those games. Especially also the situation. You know, we're top in the Big Ten West right now, so we're back in the driver's seat. Iowa lost, so this is a must win. All these games are must wins. You can't say, oh, you know, well, we got Ohio State, well, we still got some games afterwards. No, like, you have to win this game, you know. So I'm excited to see what our defense does. I'm really excited to see what the offense does, but our defense is gonna have to answer the bell this week for sure.
What's so interesting to me is, like, a lot of people don't know, like, Ohio State really wants to run the ball first more than
they really do.
And that's the thing that I like. You look at all the stats, and when it comes to, you know, the receivers, like, they've known to have multiple guys, and especially in the last couple of years, like with all the first round draft picks that's come out of that receiver room, they've known to have, you know, 1,000-yard receivers. But if you think about it, in recent years with Ezekiel Elliott, J.K. Dobbs, like, they always have a really good premier back that, you know, it's really hard to defend because you don't know if to stop the run, and if you don't stop the run, obviously you don't want to play too. As far as, like, the strategic part of it, like, you don't want to play a lot of too high, cover 4, cover 2, just because you have to stop the run game. And then when you load up in the box, you know, you leaving guys outside, you know, one-on-one or, you know, against top guys that are going to get drafted. So I always am intrigued by the chess match between the coordinators when we play Ohio State.
Yeah, it's going to be, like you said, Warren, I think that defensive front, I think it's a game we can't drop. I mean, you could do it, like, once or twice, but I don't think that should be the call on third down, things of that nature. Don't let Kyle McCord sit back and have, you know, 7, 6, 5 seconds to find guys, because obviously they have a lot of dynamic players over there that can do it. So, you know, guys like Gio Paez, James Thompson Jr., Daryl Peterson, they got to come ready to play. Have to get some pressure on this guy. I think that's going to be the challenge. You know, make their quarterback feel the pressure. You know what I mean? Like, whether you may not get the sack every time, but just close the pocket on him, because he's a different quarterback. If he's comfortable in the pocket, you know, he does a really good job. If you're able to close the pocket, maybe get his eyes, you know, off being downfield, he's going to look like a completely different player, which I got to give him credit. He's improved, you know, every single week. But he's been playing better, so he's going to come into this game, you know, really confident. But if we can try and, you know, get him off schedule, get his eyes off his target. I said, I don't know what the game plan is going to be from Tressel. Like,
disguise.
You're going to have to disguise. I think you're going to have to send some pressure. Penn State did a really good job. They were sending a lot of time. They were sending the corner off the nub side when they were in tight splits over there, and they missed them quite a few times. And, you know, their corners actually beat their backs and protection a couple times. So I think, obviously, Ohio State's going to see that. Obviously, we're going to see that, but I'm sure we're going to have to mix it in at some point. I don't think we can just rush 4 every time. We're going to have to send, you know, 5 or 6 every now and then, just to kind of shake it up a little bit. So I'm interested because, and offensively, it's going to be a challenge too. This defense only gives up 10 points a game, so it's going to be, we're going to have to work for everything we get, and when we get our opportunities to create a big play, like, we got to do it. Like, and it ain't going to be easy. Like, they secondary, like, I was kind of wondering how their secondary was going to be this year. Last week against Penn State, they receivers could not get open. Like, they tightened up. Even when their quarterback had time, he patting the ball, waiting. And if they did make a catch, it was contested. So, like I said, we're going to scheme things up. You're going to get a ton of man coverage. We all know that's what Ohio State loves to do. Third down, that's their wheelhouse. Man-to-man coverage. See if you can get the pass rush 5 or 6, see if you're going to win against our corner. So, receivers – gonna have to play big because I'm sure, like, their number one target is gonna be keep Braylon under 80 yards, keep him under 50 yards, and see if this freshman quarterback can stand up in there in the pocket, don't feel the pressure, and make the throws against tight coverage. So I think the receivers gonna have to rise to the challenge.
And I think
he can do it.
He can do it. He can do it. And
he can do it.
And the thing is, right, like, Ohio State, they've always been known to have, you know, a solid secondary group. But I feel like for our receiver group, we have guys that can win, right?
100%.
Sky, DK, you know, Will. This is the opportunity. Like, this is the chance. You're gonna get 1-on-1. You know, like somebody like we said with Marvin, you can't double team everybody. So you might have to double Will this play. You might have to double Sky or something. Somebody's getting a 1-on-1 matchup, bro. You gotta win. Yeah. You gotta win, man. And when you do win, the other part of it is we gotta make the catch, right? Like the little things we have to do extremely well. This week is in just beating teams like Ohio State, where the teams where you can make very minimal mistakes. This is the time where you got to, go out and produce. So it's going to be exciting just to see those guys get out there and play now too, because a lot of that stuff is going to fall on them, right? Like they're going to stack the box. Yeah. They're going to try to stop Braylon. Here it is. This is our opportunity.
Yeah, man. I said this is one of them weeks too in practice. I know playing with Bill, we play teams that like to run a lot of man-to-man coverage. Like we're gonna have a bunch of periods. Obviously, you're gonna have one-on-ones. You're gonna have 7-on-7 man-to-man coverage. You're gonna have third down period, all man-to-man coverage. So that's what I kind of hope Phil Longo, Luke Fickell are kind of doing, all week long to get these guys prepared. Obviously, they're gonna have some wrinkles in there where they're gonna drop in the zone and all that. But at the end of the day, they're gonna run some man coverage, and I'm sure they feel confident in that. And I think you go ahead, Warren. What you about to hit on?
I was just about to say it's got to be a good on good week too. Yeah. I mean, you gotta get some periods where your ones are, and like I know we do it now, where we have a period or two or a series or two where we go ones, but you got to take a couple periods and let ones go against ones. It's got to be good on good. Because that's what you're going to see in the game. I mean, you get that every week, but this is just one of those games. You want to stay in the driver's seat, you got to challenge each other.
Yeah, O-State's going to bring pressure, too.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
For sure, right? Like, O-State's going to bring pressure. And I think that's going to be a real big key, matchup as emphasis in the game as well, just being able to hold up and give our quarterback just a couple more seconds, right? Like, we all know how important timing is, and that relates to even with trying to stop Marvin and that receiver group over there. Like even if it's not getting the sack, but it's just throwing the timing off a little bit, is going to help us out on both ends with protecting our quarterback and then also just trying to stop that receiver group on the defense side of the ball.
Yeah, man, and like I said, receivers, whatever you got in your bag that you've been waiting to use, all your tricks, bring it out this week. It gotta work. It gotta work. Y'all got any final score predictions for this game? What you think we gotta? I just say that. What do you think we gotta hold them to offensively to win this game? Like, how many points? Like 14, 21. Like, I mean, they scored 20 points last week against Penn State. Defense is good. Yeah, 20, and they scored 20 on them. So, like, what do you think we gotta hold them to win this game?
I think that 20 to 24 range, and I don't know exactly remember the score to the Notre Dame game. Yeah, but I just know the games that they've been competitive in, and like that they know like it's really come down to like those last couple drives. Like again, last week, I mean they beat Penn State convincingly, but that game was 20-12. I mean it's a close game. It was one of those games where Penn State's offense, if they could have got something going, it would have been a way better game. So I think 20 to 24 points is where you want to keep them at. Yeah. But on our end, we have to, you got to find a way to put that ball in the end zone. Like field goals is a score that is not going to help you beat Ohio State. So putting the ball in the end zone and just kind of limiting them to that 20 to 24 point range.
What about you, Warren?
I'm going to say the same thing. The two closest games that they've had 17 against Notre Dame and then 20 against Penn State. So definitely around that 20 range. But I think it's going to come down to limiting mistakes, because this is one of those games that you can't make mistakes. I mean, Ohio State's going to make plays, but you got to move on to the next play. It can't be, dwelling on that one. If they score, when they score, because they're going to score. Like, let's be honest. Like, Ohio State's going to get a point on the board. Yeah. But it's how we going to respond. Like, we got to punch back. So I want to say keep it in around 20. I say 14, 20, and just keep it close. Make it close, because our offense, I know we can score the ball, and this is going to be an opportunity for us to do that. So, especially with our receivers, we've seen them be able to separate, time and time again against man coverage. So, being able to take advantage of that, and then obviously putting the ball in our best playmaker's hands. That's Braylon.
Yeah, I agree. I think we got to keep them under 20 points offensively. I think we're going to have to score at least 24 points to win this football game. My prediction, 24-20, Wisconsin. I think we take them down.
It's doable too, bro.
It's very doable. Sure doable. Like I said, we ain't played them in the camp since 2016. When we played there, we lost. Overtime was like 30-23. So I said we played them. We played them on the road quite a few times. We played them well. Like maybe the last several times we haven't, but we actually played this team really good.
Especially at the camp. The
Yeah,
last few times we done played them at the camp, we done took it down to the wire.
2016 was my senior year, and I just remember having we had a tough run as far as like the teams that we're gonna have to play. I know we had to play Michigan State. Then we had to go to Michigan State. Then we had to go to Michigan. Then we had to play Ohio State. It was either Ohio State or Nebraska. We had to play either Ohio State and then Nebraska, or Nebraska then Ohio State. But I remember that 2016 game vividly, man. And it was literally one of those games where, like as far as like just previous years of playing them and just understanding of how high powered of an offense they have been before that. This was the year that I wouldn't say they weren't that, right? Like it wasn't had as so many deep threats. Yeah. So that was the time where the game kind of slowed down a little bit. Like it was literally one of those one possession games. Yeah. You knew like if we made a mistake, they were going to capitalize. Yeah. If they made a mistake, we were going to capitalize. And I remember, Bart ended up throwing a interception to what was the safety's name? He was very good. He plays for the Cowboys right now. I can't remember.
Oh, Malik Hooker.
Oh, Malik Hooker. Yeah. And that secondary was nice, man. Between Malik Hooker, Marshawn Lattimore, and Garrett Conley, like I said, they've always had good secondary play. So, it's gonna be a fun matchup, man. It's nothing like playing. It's truly nothing like playing against Ohio State, right? They're one of the teams that if you grew up watching college football and just watch like premier teams, that's a team that you want to get a chance to play against. And it's a primetime game. Like this, the stage is truly set, man. Go out there, have fun, ball out, play together, celebrate when you make a good play. Like this is one of those games where you can feed off the energy of the crowd. Yeah. And we're definitely gonna be loud, at Camp Randall. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, let's not forget Luke Fickell. He coached at Ohio State.
He gonna want it too. Yeah,
he wants it too, right?
Yeah. He gonna have the guys ready to go. He gonna be ready to go. This gonna be a game. He definitely wants to get. So let's now get to the word on campus. So as you guys know, we gonna be in Madison this weekend.
In the building,
night game. Our first time back in some time, especially for Soj. You haven't been back since since you graduated. So I know it's gonna be an exciting time for you. What are you most excited to get back and do? Obviously go to the game, but aside from that,
bro, I always say us being from Florida, right? Like Florida always has a special place in the kids down here, and for me, like Madison truly is like my second home, right? Like I spent so much time there and years there. I've been able to make friendships that I don't consider you guys friends. I consider you guys family and brothers. And that's what's so important to me. So just being able to get back and just have those feels again, right? Like seeing where I used to stay at, being able to walk on State Street, see the terrace. The energy in Madison, it has always been so good. The people there have always been so nice and good to me and my family. So I'm just excited to just be back in Wisconsin and Madison, see Camp Randall. Like I haven't been there truly since 2017 when I left to go to Arizona, for the NFL. So it's gonna be extremely dope. I'm excited. It's one of those things I don't want to get too sentimental, but it's gonna be a heart filling moment for me. Just a couple days.
Sure, man. What about you, Warren? What you looking forward to?
Man, I'm
cheese
really
curds.
Hey, I try to keep a straight face, but definitely looking forward to the cheese curds for sure. Got to get me a brat or two. But no, man, I'm just looking forward to seeing the energy, man. Obviously, getting on campus with my dogs, we're gonna link up again. But being able to, mingle with and talk with all the Badger fans, and being able to see people that we haven't been able to see in months, years, things like that. Academic staff, other friends from other teams, things like that. I know a lot of people are going to be in town this week, so being able to just get back together with everybody and kind of have that little reunion is going to be a lot of fun. And also, bring my wife with me, so for her to be able to see the things that I've been passionate about at Wisconsin, it's going to be amazing. So looking forward to doing that too.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about a little bit of everything. The atmosphere, obviously night games, so everybody gonna be, they're gonna be well seasoned by the time the game actually rolls around. So yeah, I'm excited to be on State Street, all that stuff before the game, get around some of the guys, get to chop it up with them a little bit, see where their mental space is at, about to play in a very big game, and a very big game, probably the biggest game for a lot of these guys in their career. We're at the top of the West, Ohio State, right there at the top of the East Division. So, I mean, this could potentially be a game that we could see, in December if we both make it to a Big Ten championship. So we have the possibility of seeing this team again. But I'm also excited to tailgate. I've only got to tailgate, once, since leaving Wisconsin. I know so it's just your first time back. So it's fun, dog. Just being in that on the other side of things. It's a completely different feel.
And I know that is such a big part of our Badger tradition and culture at Wisconsin, right? Like the tailgates. I've heard a million stories from my mom, my parents, friends that I've brought to the game, just saying they've been to other college football games, even some NFL games, and it's truly nothing like a Badger tailgate. So I'm looking forward to just sharing that moment with you guys, and also just having fun and enjoying. Like I said, it's a lot of people that we haven't seen in a long time. So being able to just kind of link up, talk, see where everybody's at, it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, man. Where the tailgates at? Y'all make sure y'all send us all the tailgate locations.
When y'all see it, drop it in the comments. Let us know where to pull up.
Yeah, we may pull up.
And say what's up too. We got some big time Badger guys here. We're definitely all cool people. It's gonna be cool to just be able to mingle with some of these people. 100%. It's gonna be exciting.
It's going to be an exciting time. But that's a wrap for this week's Camp Randall Platoon podcast. Appreciate you guys checking in every single week with us, bringing you Badger football news. And big week. Hopefully the Badgers get a big dub against the number 3 team in the nation. I know Camp Randall's going to be rocking. We haven't beat this team since 2010. So it's about that time once again. So been a long time. Been a long time.
Hey, I might even pull up, give a pregame speech. You never know.
Hey, no. That's an inside joke. That's an inside joke.
Last time you did that didn't go so well. Let's hold on.
Hey, that thing was cold though. Oh man, some gladiator type stuff.